I'll back off just a second. I will just sort of echo what's been said here. It's so great to come to this room again, and it seems like it was about 10 years ago that we were in here with yet another climate gathering. And I see my city council co-member over here, Connie Bozen, and we're gonna, Josh Mandelbaum will be here. I will tell you that I was the only city council member in this room at that meeting. However, the media actually reported what was going on in here, and it was like this. It was packed, and all of a sudden, I think my fellow members said, "I think people care about this issue, and they're voters, and so maybe we should start stepping it up." So it's all of you in this room, that whether it's at the city level, the county level, the state level, let people know that you care about this issue, and we can move it forward and make some progress.
How important it is to get kids connected to the outdoors. I learned this when I would take fifth graders to outdoor education camp the last 3 days of school. When we would arrive at camp, the conservation teacher and I would assign each child a quiet place outside. It could be in a small part of the prairie. It could be along a small stream or under a tree. They were to be quiet. They were given a pencil and a journal, and they were asked to just sit with the outdoors, record what they heard, seen, and touched. We would gradually increase the time that they were outdoors at their quiet place. And we did it 2 or 3 times a day. When the camp was just about over and the bus came to pick up us to go back to Des Moines to Moulton Elementary, the kids came over to me and said, "Miss Yu, can we go back to our quiet place just one more time?" And I think of the 15 years that I took kids to outdoor camp, that was a favorite activity. As you can see, it's so important to get connected, to get kids outdoors. And that can be done in a number of ways, but environmental education in our school systems is very low. And I just think it's so important that we talk about local government, to let our school boards know that environmental education at all levels needs to be promoted. The other activity that I am involved in, and have been involved in for about 4 years, is the Des Moines Citizens Task Force on Sustainability. I'm trying to find my note card. About 3 years ago, a bunch of us residents of Des Moines decided to go to the city council, and that came out of our membership with the Interfaith Green Coalition. We decided to go to the City Council of Des Moines and ask that we be the Citizens Task Force on Sustainability and that climate change be our priority. It was granted, our wish was granted, and we became a part of the city as an advisory group. This happened right after the Paris Climate Agreement. Since then, we have been promoting the Des Moines to adopt a climate action plan, a plan that would very gradually lower the greenhouse gases in Des Moines through all the different areas, from building environment to transportation to energy generation and so forth. With the flash flood of June 30th of last summer, we were allowed, the task force, to be the 5th committee of post-flood recommendations. And again, we have recommended that we must adopt a climate action plan and get ready for the extreme weather. It has been a slow process, but it will happen. Not sure of the number, but over 100 cities across our country have already adopted climate action plans to reduce their greenhouse gases by 100% by 2050. So it is possible, and it will happen. One of the proposals that is coming up in the city of Des Moines in the next month or so is the energy efficiency ordinance that looks at buildings 25,000 square feet or more and how they can benchmark their energy and lower their greenhouse gases and energy efficiency. This has been proposed by environmental groups, by citizens, by our task force, and it will be presented to the City Council. We will need lots of letters, phone calls. We will need lots of people when we go to City Council. If you are interested, I do have a sign-up sheet that you can be contacted when we do go to City Council about this energy efficiency. Because our commercial buildings in Des Moines have used up and give out 35% of all of our city emissions. So it's very important and a good start toward a climate action plan in Des Moines. Our ultimate goal, or one of our ultimate goals as a task force, is also to get across the metro area citizens to go to their city councils and ask to be a task force of citizens in their city, whether it be Norwalk, West Des Moines, whether it be Urbandale, Indianola, whether it be Altoona. Go to your city councils with the same proposal and with the same idea of climate action plans being implemented all over the metro area. That is our goal. So with that, I think we have to know that citizens, all of us, wherever we reside, need to be pushing for climate action in their community. Jim Antle says, let's get thousands of congregations to join community leaders and make things happen. And I think that's a great idea. Will we take the necessary actions to sustain our web of life on this delicate earth? Will we stand up for kids, for our future kids, which Jim calls in his book The Unborn, and also all creatures of the earth? Chief Seattle, over 150 years ago, gave us a warning, and I borrowed this. The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely strands in it. And what we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Whatsoever befalls the earth, befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Channing Dutton. Many of you know me because of some of the work that I've been doing in terms of climate activism throughout Iowa. But just so you know, by day, I'm actually an attorney. And I'm an attorney that has no practical experience in science, in environmental law, in climate action. But I'm an attorney who got hit in the head with a rock one day, and that woke me up to a greater duty and a greater calling. And that incident happened while I was riding my recumbent bike on the bike trail out in West Des Moines on the 11th. And to entertain myself, because bike riding does get a little monotonous, I was listening to a Science Friday podcast. And on the podcast, a great climate writer, great environmental writer named Lester Brown was being interviewed. And Lester Brown was talking about his book, Plan B 2.0. Now, before he retired, it matured into Plan B 4.0. But what he was saying was so shocking to me that I literally stopped my bike and I fiddled around with my player and I played it again. And what he said is, climate change has devastated Saudi Arabia's ability to grow wheat. Now, before that day, and before that rock hit me in the form of that podcast, I only cared about my family, my law practice, and Nebraska football. Those were the things that really occupied my time, but I thought, well, could this possibly be true? Because it was Science Friday, I guess I kind of thought it was true, but I got on the internet that night, and I asked myself, was Saudi Arabia growing wheat up until 2008? And that's a picture of the center pivot irrigation systems in the desert. And the answer is, the Saudis were so appalled that we retaliated for the oil embargo in the 70s with a food embargo on them, that they used their drilling technology and they drilled into a bank account for the future. And that bank account for the future was their freshwater aquifers. And they drilled those aquifers so successfully that they became a net exporter of wheat to the Soviet Union from '84 to 2008. But in 2008, a rock hit the king of Saudi Arabia in the head. And that rock was, we've drilled into our bank account and we have depleted that bank account. And global warming is going to prevent us from refilling that bank account. And in the course of 4 years, they went from being a net exporter of wheat to an importer of wheat. And what Lester Brown was saying on Science Friday is, that means they've come into the US market and they're competing with us for the wheat. They're using their oil money and they're driving up the price of our food. And in that same broadcast, he said, there's another player who's facing the same water shortage, and that's China. And China is our banker. And our banker is now competing with the Saudis and with us for the wheat that we all need and that we all rely upon. I started reading, and I saw what many people said here today. Climate change is a messy goo that binds all of our problems. Now, this is a clip from the Des Moines Register back in 2015. It was saying, well, here's what Republicans care about, and here's what Democrats care about, but what I care about is global warming. And I asked myself, is global warming affecting income inequality? Is global warming affecting war? Is global warming leading to the rise of terrorist groups and security threats? Is international trade? Is national defense? Is our energy under stress? Are our jobs under stress? Is our budget, is our economy under stress? Pick the issue, and global warming tends to make it worse. I started to ask the question, what do you do when you've been hit in the head with a rock? And I'm hoping that today is a rock moment for some people here in this audience. What do you do when you get hit in the head with a rock? And that rock says, what do you do when you knew? And I started reading Denison, Iowa's greatest citizen, Dr. James Hansen. And Dr. Hansen went to the University of Iowa. He studied with Dr. Van Allen. He pioneered the first mission to Venus. But he gave up that mission because he found something more interesting, and that is, wait a minute, as I'm learning about the atmosphere of Venus, we have a problem with the atmosphere on this planet, and he's been working on that since that time. Now, I'm going to jump out. I was going to play a clip of Dr. Hansen talking about coming storms. In 2012, he gave a TED Talk, and he said, you haven't seen anything yet. The storms are coming. And so he said this to us, 19 minus 12, 7 years ago. Look at this headline. Hurricanes are strengthening faster in the Arctic, and climate change is a big reason why, scientists say. This new study is out. Everybody's all excited about it. But Hansen was talking about growing storms, and that headline was yesterday. So what he predicted in 2012, but he'd really been predicting it since the 80s, What he predicted in 2012 is news again today. But I'm going to play you a clip of Greta Thunberg, the young woman we've heard talked about. Thunberg, thank you. And when I saw this, we talk about what motivates us. Every time I see this, I watched it a couple times last night. Every time I see it, she's speaking to me about what I need to do in the future. And she's speaking to all of us. Just put down your cell phones and give her a listen.
Many people say that Sweden is just a small country and it doesn't matter what we do. But I've learned that you are never too small to make a difference. And if a few children can get headlines all over the world just by not going to school, then imagine what we could all do together if we really wanted to. But to do that, we have to speak clearly, no matter how uncomfortable that may be. You only speak of green, eternal economic growth because you are too scared of being unpopular. You only talk about moving forward with the same bad ideas that got us into this mess, even when the only sensible thing to do is pull the emergency brake. You are not mature enough to tell it like it is. Even that burden you leave to us children. But I don't care about being popular. I care about climate justice and a living planet. Our civilization is being sacrificed for the opportunity of a very small number of people to continue making enormous amounts of money. Our biosphere is being sacrificed so that rich people in countries like mine can live in luxury. It is the sufferings of the many which pay for the luxuries of the few. The year 2078, I will celebrate my 75th birthday. If I have children, maybe they will spend that day with me. Maybe they will ask me about you. Maybe they will ask why you didn't do anything while there still was time to act. You say you love your children above all else, and yet you're stealing their future in front of their very eyes. Until you start focusing on what needs to be done, rather than what is politically possible, there is no hope. We cannot solve a crisis without treating it as a crisis. We need to keep the fossil fuels in the ground, and we need to focus on equity. And if solutions within this system are so impossible to find, then maybe we should change the system itself. We have not come here to beg world leaders to care. You have ignored us in the past, and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses, and we are running out of time. We have come here to let you know that change is coming, whether you like it or not. The real power belongs to the people. Thank you.
On April 10 of last year, 2017, my son's first child was born, and I was 63 years old. I put this tweet up in his memory, and the tweet was that the atmospheric parts per million of the CO2 was 410.39. Now here's a little hint for those of you who are motivated. If you want a good password, just start using the atmospheric composition on the day that your grandchildren are born. Because it's only going to be that way for one birthday. This is my grandson, William. He's a happy, bright little boy. But when he's 63, the atmospheric parts per million are going to be about 640 parts per million. And the storms that Dr. Hansen told us were coming in the 80s, the storms that his TED Talks referred to in 2012, the storms that are the headlines yesterday, those storms are child's play. in comparison to the storm that he will see. Now, all of us here today, you know, we have the young little child who is napping with her grandmother, now sitting on mother's lap. And she motivates me right here today. And I would ask all of you to take that rock in the head. And we are in a presidential season. And this is the time to demand of the candidates, not that they go blah, 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 climate change, but that they go, climate change is the messy goo that binds all of the other blah, blah, blah problems. And if we can start to motivate the candidates, the media will follow. And when the media follows, we've really accomplished great things. And that's my request, go do great things. This is my information. Send me an email, give me a call. I got a bunch of ideas and I'm happy to help anybody who will act on climate. Thank you.